Why, hello there, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages. My name is Mr. DB333, and welcome back to Hearts of Iron 4, the New Order as the United States of Brazil. Now, last time we were here together, well, our inauguration came from Mr. Adhemar. We had a bit of a rainstorm in Guanabara. More of a rainstorm, more like flash flooding. Knocked people the hell out, unfortunately. So we're dealing with a little bit of the fallout there. And we're currently proposing a healthcare bill. Well, the healthcare bill, even. Oops. Scroll back on up. Easily accessible healthcare is a right all God damn it. All Brazilians deserve, but have been deprived of for far too long. This is something Adhemar is intimately familiar with his time as a doctor. This is something the PSP will make into a reality with the healthcare bill. Of course, there is some debate as to the content of the bill. The UDN would prefer cooperation with the private enterprise, was a PTP petition for a public healthcare system. Regardless, passage of the bill is imperative if we wish to set a strong base for the rest of the presidency. Well, we need 34 senators, which we almost have immediately. And this is before we go ahead and push through with support. Also in the last video, we had a little mishap happen in Guyana. And now we have the Cayenne independence referendum. After decades of negligence in Brazilian interventionism, Cayenne's future is on the line as protests have erupted in violence. A referendum on its independence, as at first demanded by the French, who was consented to by both the OFN and our government in order to end the issue, with the OAS overseeing the process to prevent future violence. For all the talk about holding self-determination, its future will not be decided without foreign meddling. We may need to get our hands dirty to prevent a diplomatic embarrassment. Well, Brazilian success in the referendum depend not only making sure Brazilian turnout is higher than independent turnout, but also public anger stays below 60%, and election legitimacy above 40%. Less Cayenne's independence is taken out of Brazil's hands. So we're going to want to be careful there. In fact, I'm going to go ahead and start the timer. Let's start with arresting some troublemakers. Let's utilize the envelope system, try to calm down the anger as best we can. And with that, we've taken our 2 actions. Alright, in the meanwhile, we're going to go ahead and do a focus. And, well, we saw how poorly not working well with your VP turned out for last time around. So we're going to go ahead and let her in. Somebody's knocking the door. Somebody's ringing the bell. Open the door and let it in. Yes, it is true that a relationship between the president and the vice president is frosty, but Edna Lott's heart is in the right place, for she truly cares about the fate of society's poorest. Having seen her integrity, dignity, and sound speech, the president will now offer a chance to be a model of good works. Working within a line of the PTB will make our healthcare bill much stronger. It'll help drive a wedge between the old PTB-PSD coalition and help our left flank secure. Help secure our left flank, I think it means. The political cost to this will open up our government to attacks from the right wing, especially with the UDN. Assuming the bill goes through, however, this need not be a problem. Baiting the UDN to attacking our government over our willingness to work with other parties will make them look callous and cruel once the poorest Brazilians are given health care. The UDN will be put to shame, having nothing evil to say about us in our efforts to help all Brazilians. I like it. Let's get to it. So, I took a bit of a break in between recording the last session and today. Only a couple hours. And between now and then, it looks like a hotfix just dropped. Now, luckily, it doesn't seem like it's going to tank my save. Let's go ahead and schedule an inspection. And let's also pay off some loyal officers. in the meanwhile. Got some good industrialization over here. Our literacy is not good, though. No me gusta. Oh, this is all coming along quite well, though, actually. Our project's coming along pretty well. We'll get this done in 23 months. Let's get working on industry down here, then. Look at that. Lotto Natel was not just a chief of staff, but an accountant. Thus, a Brazilian victory in the long grind of that was the mining war afforded him not merely relief, but extra reports to attend to, whether he liked it or not. At least there were a few calls to make and heartstrings to pull this time. Those were the spoils this victory was most grateful for. Adhemar and the Planalto Palace were not the only winners, however. A sudden surplus of expropriated Argentine and Chilean mines meant open season for Sao Paulo. Natal noted the frequent appearance of Petrobras, Compahi Vale do Rio Doce, and even Matarazzo or two in the reports, with big plus signs next to their revenue listings. Numbers which followed were even more captivating. But for how long? It was all well and good indulging in pages of sugary language and rocketing portfolios, but the Bolivian tragedy story was known to all. A country of material riches, but with little protection for those who extracted it. Stuck in the cycle of conflict which fueled it, condemned it to weaken for it. In a nation of inexorable decline, to assume that the next chapter would be different would be risky at best. The whole country had become an investor's casino, promising hefty winnings for those who could afford to pay. But his president's penchant for risks forced him to play along, and resignedly accepting his inability to change that, he moved along to the next item on his list. No new hopes, only new masters. Liana shuffled a stack of papers, filing into a cabinet in her desk before leaning back and enjoying the view of Brasilia from the Palacio do Planalto. 6 years ago, she was just a canvasser for the PSP in Sao Paulo, incessantly knocking on doors to spread the message of Adhemar and the PSP. She remembered the first day Adhemar stopped into their office unannounced, thanking them for everything they were doing. When her manager said she was the hardest working member of the office, Adhemar gave her a big hug as thanks. Liana's face lit up beet red. A decade ago, Liana was an orphan on the streets, scavenging through scrap piles to make sure she and her brother had something to eat. It was dirty and dangerous work, fighting with orphan boys for bits and pieces of metal and plastic that often didn't have much value. They always underestimated her. When the PSP put up flyers looking for fleet-footed people to aid in their campaign, Liana didn't blink. And now she was Adhemar's personal secretary, ensuring that his day was filled to the brim with meetings, ribbon-cutting events for new hospitals and schools, and media rumors. Some of the other secretaries in the PSP spread nasty rumors about how an orphan had kissed Adhemar's ass the most, so Liana got the top spot. But Liana knew how she got her spot, by simply being the best, because as Adhemar always told her, it's what Brazil demands of PSP. What were you thinking about, Liana? Said Adhemar with a smile. Nothing, Mr. President. I will get right back to work. Adhemar laughed before putting her on her shoulder. I'm sure you were at work. Can I see next Monday's schedule? Liana handed over a typed sheet to Adhemar, who nodded as he skimmed through it. Great work as always. Why don't we walk and talk about next week's events? And remember, stop being so formal with me. You make me feel old. Adhemar said. Liana cracked a smile to herself before getting out of her chair. Of course, Mr. President. I'm really not happy about this. In the jungle, they worked on a site to drop nuclear bombs on. No one knew what the men and women working in Southern Para knew that they were working towards, even if they knew what they were working on expanding the Campo de Provas, Brigadero Veloso, and even if fewer of them knew where they're expanding the site, so they could drop nuclear bombs onto it. The majority of the workers could barely read, let alone comprehend the ramifications of the work that was being done. It might have been easier that way, for 12 hours a day. They tore down flora and replaced it with concrete, breaking only when their bodies could not go on. Sometimes these breaks were permanent. Labor takes a micro-sleep at the wrong moment and falls headfirst into a cement mixer, unaware of what's happening. until it all goes black. In these cases, a letter was sent to their family, assuming one could not be found. They gave loved ones a scant few lines, a paycheck, and a warning not to press for more information. There were those above them, too, watching the work progress with rapt enthusiasm, imagining wondrous images of what was to come. These pictures always involved bombs and machines, but not people. Never people. That the machine would move past the need for people, the need for politicians to win a war. And when the day ended, they all went home, and they went to see their wives, husbands, lovers, and children. They thought of their futures, of long, lazy days in retirement, and of their grandchildren visiting them. Then they slept, and they thought of the future they were working towards. And then they cannot sleep any longer. Ooh. There goes the Taoiseach. Pakistan. What does that mean for Islamic Republic? Checks out. Yep, Einat's Pact. The afternoon coffee was the vice president with a new beginning of sorts. On their first 3 official meetings, and a lot had been guarded, a slowly simmering passionate anger beneath the surface of her cold, careful manners. Adhemar in turn been cautious, his politeness rounding the edge of his wry demeanor. The day's meeting was still labored. Both the president and vice president remained on their guard. Neither wished to betray any weakness to their rival. As he approached the day's main topic, Lot's composure faltered for a moment, and the president thought he could see her curiosity. "You're doing this, then? Working with Labor and I to get you your healthcare reform movement moving. Of course, Oh, that's what I'm saying. Of course, it would not be easy to line both of our parties together. However, convincing the union and conservatives give us even a penny of funding is out of question." Lot smiled weakly, raising an eyebrow. "You undersell yourself, Mr. President. I'm sure someone of your caliber can manage it, especially if it's sold as a campaign against communism, the PTB. That said, your willingness to work with us is creditable." The rest of the conversation progressed at a slow and careful pace. Both President and VP argued the details here and there, each in turn trying to win their side lion's share of the project. By the end of the meeting, something like the beginning of a working relationship had appeared. We'll have to keep an eye on her. Let's work on Kubitschek's work immediately, because we need to improve our admin efficiency. President Kubitschek was a man of too many projects for a single presidency. He no doubt hoped to build upon this basic reform of healthcare through a second mandate. Unfortunately for him, Kubitschek did not account for the possibility of a newcomer hijacking the PSC's dominant position. He will make a good use of the former president's reforms as well as the nascent healthcare bureaucracy he helped create. The health sector represents, among other things, a veritable cornucopia of civil service appointments we can use as spoils for friends within the party, as well as for corporate lobbyists. By merging industry for expertise and resources with loyalists of our party establishment, President Adhemar hopes to build a political structure to last the ages. The House of Cards always needs delicate attention after all. Let us only pray that Vice President Lott, overjoyed as she is over healthcare reform, does not realize what we're up to. Alright, you can do some more, referendum work. Our legitimacy is still at 100. So let's restrict convict suffrage. And then Roba Masfas. There we are. Next, we'll probably want to decrease that anger again. Well, that will get this video demonetized if I kept it up for too long. I'm wondering when Colombia's supposed to kick off into its little conflict. So far, it hasn't. So far, so good with the army stuff. Carlos Lacerda considered himself a patient man. He spent countless years fighting for Brazil with dignity, seeing conflict and bloodshed with his own eyes. He was a man that knew how to keep his cool when it was needed. And yet, every damn second Romeo de Campos Vergal continued to speak, you could feel that patience faltering. Well, I can see how many people will be frightened by the intensity of President Adhemar's reforms, Enrique, the man said, babbling gormlessly into the microphone. How the man was ever considered competent enough to be the head of Brazil's economy, you would never know. But the truth of the matter is that the healthcare plan would benefit millions of Brazilians. What a load of horseshit. It was yet another ill-thought, harebrained scheme Adhemar was just using to court popularity. Thank you, Mr. Vergal. The presenter said to Lacerda, finally it's time to speak. Now, on the other side of the debate, we have Carlos Lacerda, who was quite the critic of the president's policies. What do you think about them? He straightened his tie. With all due respect, Enrique, the president's plan is about as sound as a ship made of paper. This is yet another irresponsible, half-thought-out plan that Adhemar pushes out every now and then to bring in extra votes. The more Brazilians aren't actively resisting them is... But, Mr. Lacerda, you say all this, but even your fellow members of UDN have supported the president's plan. This brought Lacerda to a stop. What? What could he possibly mean? Noticing the expression of the president continued. Why, just recently, Governor Magalhães announced that he would be working with the PSP on this. Were you unaware? Everything ground to a halt. Magalhães? The man he personally chose as successor is Governor Guanabara? It couldn't be true. Shaking himself out, he hastily responded, while they are free to say whatever they choose to, it doesn't change the facts of what Adhemar is doing. He continued on half-heartedly for the rest of the session, still fixed on how he could have missed such a large U-turn from the rest of UDN. When the interview ended, Lacerda left quickly. Let's work on expanding the vaccination program as well, because I do want to get these societal developments kicked off sooner. That way they can be kicking up for longer. Let's expand the vaccination programs. Brazil may be blessed in its geography by considerable size. Its equatorial position and its vast jungles, however, have brought with them a range of diseases. Too many of our citizens continue to live hobbled by tropical diseases. Many find their lives prematurely ended by them. Saving these citizens is possible through the modern wonder of vaccination. Many illnesses that were once simple life sentences can now be ended through a simple inoculation. Many Brazilians don't afford this life-changing possibility simply because of the remoteness of their villages. Sao Paulo under Governor Adhemar saw vast vaccination campaigns. Brazil under President Adhemar must now see the same, a national effort to contain and eliminate preventable diseases. So, our national healthcare reform must begin by a great crusade against the tiniest enemy of all. No, I like that. That is effective. Alright, let's placate the French. And then let's stuff the ballot a little bit. We need to start getting these big numbers going. As long as we keep legitimacy above 40, we'll be okay. Anger, 57%. If we can keep that balanced, we'll be okay. It was a sweltering morning in Brasilia, and Adhemar wanted to boost his public image again. As he sat in his office in the Palacio do Planalto and stared at a large effigy of Nossa Senhora Aparecida that he took with him everywhere, he wondered how he might go about it. All of a sudden, he heard a radio blazing. The newest episode of Felix the Cat will be on Brazilian television next week. Expect laughs, slapstick, humor, and fun for all ages. At that, Adhemar had a brainwave. Why don't I try to convince their animation studio to portray me as a great politician? It'll get me more of his support and respect that is my God-given right in Brazil. Yes. I think I will do that. And George Oriolo received a thick envelope carrying the seal of the President of Brazil. He was outraged. The nerve of that good-for-nothing tin-pot oligarch, just brazenly trying to bribe me to create propaganda for him? What the hell is this? Nazi Germany? William L. Sullivan, his business partner, raised a hand for calm. I've got an idea. After that, Oriolo calmed down and nodded. Go on. Why don't we give President Boris what he wants? Let him have an appearance on the show, just not the way he clearly expects of us. As Sullivan explained how they might make that work, Oriolo's face curved into a smirk of his own. That sounds marvelous, Will. Let's do it. Is Felix the Cat Brazilian? I don't think it is. Felix the Cat. Otto Mesmer, yep. Australian. Pat Sullivan. Okay, yeah, so it's... Oh, it's American. That's what I figured. That is funny, though. I do... I think that is very funny. What they're trying to do. What are their legacy doing? It's forgettable. Echeverria. Oh, Cuba, okay. National Coalition, interesting. Sometime after Adhemar made his, shall we say, proposal to production came Felix the Cat. A new episode of Felix the Cat came out in Brazil. This episode portrayed Felix having to fight an opponent different opponent from usual. This time was an unnamed politician that, while not looking too much like the president of Brazil, had some of the same personality traits as him. Anglophone audience did not think too much of it. After all, in their experience, corrupt politicians were everywhere, and there was no point trying to identify one from the other. For the Brazilians that watched it, on the other hand, it was uproarious. It was clear as day who it was the politician was meant to refer to. Even funnier for Brazilian audience that was Felix made a mockery of the politician in the hand and drenched him in water from head to toe. The obvious President Adhemar, was obviously annoyed that it didn't go to plan, but he took it in good humor. After all, the old thought he could enjoy a bit of slapstick. Besides, the cartoon hadn't directly named him, so it was all good. Everything came out okay in the end. I can imagine all the future TNO anime, or in the TNO timeline, all the animation people having a field day with that little bit of history. Is this? This is a new one, I think. I think these two ones are new, I think. The governor's mansion in Guanabara was a building that Lacerda had long been used to, and yet as he waited in the lobby to meet with Magalhães, it never felt more unfamiliar. The painting that he had hung at the top of the stairs had been moved to the ground floor, and was fairly sure that the furniture had been replaced. It was still a nice enough looking building, he supposed, but it was different in an undefined way. Carlos? He shook himself out of his reverie and smiled, recognizing the new governor of Guanabara. Ah, Raphael, it's good to see you. The man seemed to be less enthusiastic in returning the pleasantries Lacerda noted. His smile was strained, and the fact that they were meeting in the lobby of the mansion rather than an office concerned him. Nevertheless, he considered. I'm glad you found the time to meet with me. How's the governorship been treating you? Has the PSP been giving you a hard time? Magalhães only nodded stiffly at the wisecrack. Well, Carlos, has been fine enough. I've been helping Rio recover after the storm, after all. Yes, that crisis they made a right mock-up of. And the healthcare bill as well. We'll be fighting this, of course. And the penny dropped. Magalhães stiffened, looking Lacerda in the eye with what looked like pity. Carlos. Come on, it's over. We can't afford to be attacking them like that. Like I said, they're giving us aid. If we go after them, what do you think happens? We almost lost to the PTB in 65, for goodness sakes. He nodded back. Alright. If that's how you feel, I am sorry for wasting your time, Governor, he said, adding an edge of spite to the last word. Governor. He stormed out of the mansion, trying harder than ever not to feel the weight of his failure in 65 weighing down on him. This was not a good sign. If there's one thing Carlos Lacerda was not, it was a washed-up failure. Not now, not ever. So why did it feel that way? Alright, next let's get working on... Let's cooperate with the PTB. As expected, opened the door and a lot has caused another door to close on the right. Many unit politicians of Silkoff already writing off our healthcare reform as communist drivel. President Adhemar will not mourn their absence, but will remember to give name and shame once the public's given new healthcare system. The BTB have shown themselves surprisingly cooperative after our show of good faith in bringing the VP on board. Important labor members such as Brazil and Goulart have requested meetings with President to hash out details. Their requests are likely to be costly and increase the scope of healthcare reforms. This is likely to annoy some of our party backers, but they should know better, however. The PSP is a party of doers, not complainers, and President Adhemar is not scared by a little increase of the debt. I mean, if he was, he wouldn't be taking so much from the top. Let's go ahead and fund some legacy programs. See if that'll get us. Oh, look at that. Our legacy is currently middling. And we can do some more stuff in here. Alright, so... we could stuff the ballot. Grab election monitors. And then... deploy the police seems like a good one all around. Let's do that. We're nearing in on a majority now, which is good. Let's take a look at the Tropical Titan. With the ongoing trend of rapid industrialization, living standards in Brazil are increasing. This is all culminating in continued economic development throughout the country, and at the moment, it appears these good fortunes are not stopping anytime soon. Dubbed by some media outlets as the Tropical Titan, Brazil is a nation which looks to the future of hope. For Brazil, the sky's the limit. I like that. Cameras are rolling at the center of the Friendship Bridge, whose frame arched along the glittering rivers of the Parana, a line of white tape demarcated where Brazil and Paraguay met. Adhemar enjoyed the attention of the crowd of journalists on either side as he walked down the red carpet. His opposite number approached from the other side, the sleepy village of Puerto Flor de Lis, peeking out from the tree line on the other side. When the two men stood toe-to-toe on the line, Adhemar and President Ramos shared a gracious smile and firm handshake, a diplomatic bit of theater both leaders could be happy with. With Asuncion still in ruins from the climactic battle of the Bush War, the bridge was the best place for them to meet. Closing it for the ceremony had already caused some consternation for the hauliers, carrying goods back and forth, not to mention the flood of Brazil in settlers who arrived in Foz do Iguaçu, looking to take advantage of Paraguay's virgin territory, looking to replace President Victor killed during the war. Mr. de Barros, on behalf of my nation, I once again thank you for your help in liberating Paraguay from the jackboot of fascism. Ramos' Portuguese was pretty good. Probably had plenty of time to practice. Don't thank me, Adhemar could have said. It wasn't my idea. The scheme of Fulano was already well underway in Washington and Brazilian high command, well before he was elected. General Lott's fingerprints in particular were all over it, as if the man had needed more opportunities to play hero. Adhemar simply took a chance for enrichment when he saw it. Through arms deals and reconstruction contracts, he was happy to receive the credit for the new liberal power guy, of course, but if he was going to be mercenary, he had to make sure he got paid. It's alright, he replied. It's alright. And Lott had not yet gotten used to the novelty of working with President Adhemar. She could scarcely begrudge her associates in the PTB then for their difficulty meeting face-to-face with the populist president. Goulart and Brazola were not at their first strategy meeting with Adhemar. Engineered by Lott, these get-togethers usually centered on some parliamentary strategy or another. Neither Goulart nor Brazola expected the day's bombshell. Universal free healthcare, asked Goulart. The Labour politician did not bother trying to hide his surprise. Lott nodded. This is the arrangement Adhemar seeks, she says. Well, what's in it for us? The BTB will get massively good publicity. Think about it, Brazola. We have quite the opportunity. You lots will receive massive publicity. My own party will gain as well. In the long run, you'll eclipse the PSD as the left's party. It's a win-win agreement, yes? Quite, Brazola said, his eyes narrowed. No doubt the president had some ulterior scheme in mind. Nevertheless, the Labour politician could not shake his associates' mood that this was the opportunity of a lifetime. Then, ladies and gentlemen, time to get started. History's ours for the making. Look at that. How are we doing with them? 5 out of 10. We're almost over the hump. We need to get there. Let's do an unholy alliance next. The Brazilian political scene has begun boiling over since the so-called unholy alliance have been revealed to all. Members of conservative opposition have constantly cried out about our alliance with the radical left. Some of our party's members have joined the UDN and they're grumbling, openly voicing their opinion that we are caving into communists and other extremists. Criticized from all sides, President Adhemar has decided the safest way through this valley of shadows is straight ahead. By doubling down on our alliance with the radical members of Labour Party, our government can get this healthcare bill to the finish line. We must fear no evil, confident in the Lord's will. And something's about to happen. I'm not sure. I was just the autosave. Okay. Let's get some more production units. And look at that. We can now get working on something not infrastructure related. Let's get some schools going. Yeah, schools would be good. More Cayenne referendum decisions. Let's... We can afford to do this. Ah, Mr. President, you've found me at the perfect time. Poxy Gentil Nunez leaned on the desk and fanned himself as he spoke. There's a concert in Capa tonight. The orchestra all the way from Sao Paulo. Nunez' music is what makes me feel alive. And Mark slammed down the phone, the novel idiom giving him the command of conversation. Just as Paulista musicians find opportunity in the beautiful north, So should Brazilians of all walks of life, don't you think? Naturally. Amapa is flourishing under your tenure, you know. Everyone down there is talking about Kaina. You can let the good people of Amapa know that even more opportunities are waiting them over the border. I mean, land grants, good credit, and investments of the thing of the sort. I'm not saying go door to door, make some nice posters, get on the radio, and tell them hello for me. Governor Nunez looked out the window at the distant jungle shimmering in the sun. That sounds wonderful, Mr. President, but Amapa's in a big place. I'd hate to see half a territory up and leave. I had mentioned that, Mr. Nunez. As soon as the referendum is over and we get our result, you'll be the federal intervener of Cayena. Sounds pretty agreeable, don't you think? A PSP stronghold in the northern jungle. Now that is interesting. How are we doing over here? I don't know yet. But we're starting to edge ahead against Argentina. They're 30% of the way. We're over 50. Another development edict. I want to check something when I hit this. Sponsor industry. Okay, my inflation didn't go up. It's probably... That's probably good. It doesn't do that. I wonder how much money we can get into this. Is gap gonna be like 100 mil? Don't see any options on that. Let's go ahead and do expansion of the ambulance system. One of Kubitschek's good ideas within the healthcare ministry was to introduce the age of ambulances to Brazil. Governor Sao Paulo at the time, Adhemar, built on this trend by building up Sao Paulo's fleet of motorized ambulances. Now comes a time when the rest of the country would be equipped with ambulances. Of course, great reforms need not come at great cost. We were becoming a big war between the Japanese company Toyota, the American Ford company, as well as local Brazilian constructors. The foreigners' attempt to get into our good graces will no doubt enrich the party with kickbacks. Meanwhile, friendly local businessmen receive their share of the contracts in return for political goodwill. This way, everyone can be a winner. The Brazilian taxpayer, most of all. I mean, look at that. We have a pretty solid margin. I admit to being an ignorant American, Mr. President. I had no idea you could get such fine French cuisine in Brasilia of all places. The official of the OAS smiled warmly. Adhemar dabbed his lips with a napkin and returned the smile graciously, although he had totally forgotten the name of his dinner guest. My good friend, I'll be past your compliments of a chef. He's graced Brazil's kitchens for over 20 years. Of course, it's only natural to be treated as such a fine meal, since you and your colleagues are doing such a good job with the referendum. Please, it's nothing. Our job is to only guarantee everything is above board. And the ballot box, gotta keep it free and plain and simple. What distinguishes us from the sorry folk across the Atlantic, like your chef friend. A lot of his countrymen in Cayena, too, of course. Adhemar nodded, keep his frustration masked. He needed the OAS's help legitimizing the referendum, having any discrepancies Norasco's work might create. But it seemed more and more like this Yankee was too idealistic, otherwise boring to be won over by words of flattery. Perhaps it was time for some dollar diplomacy. He well knew Americans understood graft perhaps better than anyone else, but this wasn't universal. His guests might consider such a thing a bit of a faux pas. I understand totally, in fact. We'd love to make a donation to help with your efforts. We're doing quite well. Legitimacy is going to be helped out. Anger is managing well enough. Let's do some door knocking operations. Could bribe the electoral monitors. Let's placate the French. The ambulance contract was almost ready. Funding had been set aside. Analysis of how many vehicles would be needed through the country had been made. The level of bribes and kickbacks to integrate into the process each step had been calculated. The project was set to roll out, or it would be, had a decision been taken considering the sources of the ambulances. The cabinet had been split down the middle on whether to choose American Ford or the Japanese Toyota company as the main source of the ambulances. Picking Toyota would ingratiate Brazil to Japan and help Brazil's foreign policy lean in a direction. Buying American, on the other hand, would be popular in D.C. There's always the option of buying domestic. Brazilian ambulances would be just as good. Their production would boost the economy. A lot of local businessmen would be happy with Adhemar. That said, in these troubled times, it paid to pay respect to Tokyo or Washington. As such, the president would have to make a decision about the provenance of these new ambulances. Brazilian businesses must be supported. We'll keep it local. Next, let's do a national public option. Many accuse Adhemar of megalomania when first running for the presidency. Thankfully, your boss cares not for the thoughts of lesser minds, too concerned with others' opinions to carry on with the hard work of governance. After years of the PTB, Adhemar plans a project yet unseen in world history, a national public option, aiding the nation's citizens from cradle to grave. Even within our party, many are now open about this. Now right in the open arguing this policy goes too far, that a Bolshevization of healthcare will be costly blunder. Many provisional governments, especially those on VDN, are tempesting about the end of federalization, about a gross overreach into each state's affairs, about Adhemar's descent into corrupt Bukharianism. The president is convinced to steam ahead. Backed by lot, Adhemar knows that this policy is very popular within our party's voters, as well as within Labor's membership. Through this masterstroke, Adhemar will secure his presidency as well as to plant the seeds of the Labor's collapse into a relevant junior partner of our government as left-wing voters flock to our banner. I mean, it's clever. How are we doing support-wise? Oh, yeah. President Sukarno resigns. Gas is coming to end, but it isn't over yet. Okay, let's hop back to... Let's deploy police. Let's extend Brazilian suffrage. So we want to keep anger under 60, legitimacy over 40. I think we're going to manage to do that. The assembled crowd roared as one in Sao Paulo, where Adhemar gave his initial speech, into a world where the poor had so little and where the vagaries of life could take so much. The president announced one of the world's first universal healthcare systems. The Brazilian nation would care for its own, no matter big or small. The crowd roared again, a great human wave surrounding the president who proclaimed a new era. The wave spread throughout the country as friends and allies amplified the signal. In Sao Paulo, Governor Vargas Jr. arranged for the press to relay the president's message. Throughout the nation, other governors aligned with the PTB echoed the president. There were those who would stand against the progress, of course. Lacerda, that great rock of the conservative movement, launched into an offensive of his own. Communism in all but name, Adhemar's red nannies would accompany Brazilians from cradle to an early grave, the sacrilegious socialist state dissolving civilization in its blasphemous tide. What were mere boats against the tide? Adhemar had to laugh as he read editorials from Lacerda's newspaper. All their important fury had not won them the presidency. Could they stop him, Adhemar, now? The president stood from his desk. The fight would come, no doubt. Adhemar relished the opportunity to humiliate Lacerda yet again. The crow squawks in vain. So, all the losses we got from the UDN, we pick back up in PTB. Let's go ahead and convince the Senate. Getting the bill through the Senate will require every help of the ally we can get, as well as quite a few of our enemies' grudging support. By expanding additional efforts in political capital, Adhemar will be able to influence one more party to back our efforts for this final stretch before the Senate vote. From influencing acceptable UDN members to securing the unity of the PSP to obtaining the help of members of the PTP or PSD, this final push will be of great importance to our objectives. The President is not assured success in this venture. Nevertheless, as a man of action, he much prefers acting instead of standing still until the final vote in these final hours. Well, there we go. Research slot. Can't really do much here. I guess we'll do that. Okay, Guyana. I'll have to back up. Let's fund busing programs. Oh, that increases public turnout. That explains it, actually. Okay. Is there anything we can do to help out legitimacy? I forget. That'll decrease anger. I know I'm over now, but I want to finish. Let's slander some opposition politicians. We can deal with governors' complaints. Adhemar and will hear out governors, work in concert to placate their concerns. Let's do it. Let's move some troublesome offers to Antarctica. There we go, convincing the Senate. Not bad. Let's present the bill. It's over, all but over, but it is all over but the counting. Adhemar has now obtained the backing of all those he could. It's now time to present the bill of the Senate. Much political procedure rides on this. We can only hope that we've prepared enough. We can rally the PSP. I'll do so. We got the full backing of the party now. We can't convince anyone else, which is a little disappointing. But we got a nice big majority going. Peace in Indonesia. 4. And actually, I'm going to end things there. I got to run and do something real quick. I apologize for the sudden leave. I'll be right back next time.